Hey guys, I'm going to do my math lesson real quick for you. And I know this little pop-up is, oh, there we go. Okay. I'm going to do my math lesson for you guys, and I'm going to go over one of our new words is partitions. And when we talk about this word this week, we're just going to kind of get our feet wet with it. And next week we will use it when we need to actually partition a shape more. But I wanted you to get comfortable with it. So when you look at the word right there, it says partitions, separation into parts. So if you look at this word, an easy way to remember it is that you've got the word partitions right here. Partitions right here. And they have separated it with these black lines into different parts. Okay. We need this because we will also separate fractions. And when you partition something, you're cutting it. And with fractions, it'll be equal parts. Okay. So you can see my screen right now, and I've got three shapes up here. So when I have the square, I can partition it in many different ways. But let's just say I partition this one into three equal parts. Okay. I'm just dividing it into three equal parts. Okay. Now I only drew two lines, but do you see how it gave me three parts? 1, 2, and 3. So keep that in mind too, that when you partition something, you only have to do one less line. Okay. If I want to partition the triangle, I can partition it straight down the middle as well. If I have the circle, I can actually partition it into 4 sections by doing that right there. Okay. So when we partition something, we are just splitting it, and it ties in with our fractions and our arrays next week. So say the word partition in your mind. You can say it out loud, but it's separating into parts. Okay. And we will talk about that with our fractions next. Okay. So when you're looking at this fractions card, and it says fractions at the top, and it says a fraction is a part of a whole or a portion of a group. So a fraction is a small part of an entire shape or an entire object. It can be anything. You can have a fraction of a piece of paper. You can have a fraction of a cookie. You can have a fraction of a shape. You can have a fraction of a room. It can be all kinds of different things. So it's just a fraction is a small part of the whole thing. Okay. So if you think of like an orange, and when you actually take the skin off of an orange, it has many different parts. And you can take each of those parts away and eat it. Okay. So the fractions that you need to know are 1/2. And if you look, this says, one thing I want you to notice is this word right here. That word is half. So when you have half of something, it's two equal parts, and you're giving one to one person and one to another person. Okay. These are two equal parts. So you have two parts, and you've got the two down here. You also have one because there's one shaded. Okay, that's what that fraction part means. So if I go on, these are things that you don't necessarily need to know right now in second grade. So I'm going to skip to what you do need to know. Let's go back to halves. So when the word ends in an F, you change the F to a V and add ES. We learned that a couple of months ago. And halves are when something is divided into two equal parts. Each part is called a half. So you have this half right here, white, and you have this half right here that's pink. So they did an example with a circle, and it says 1/2 because one is shaded pink out of two pieces. Okay. So right now, your smaller number will go at the top, and the bottom number, which is your denominator, will go at the bottom. This is how many pieces there are total. So there's two pieces. Well, how many is colored pink? That's one. one half of the circle is shaded. So if I go back up here, and I actually split my triangle in half. I've got two equal parts. I've got one part here, and I've got a second part there. So this would be, if I want to shade in one of my parts, I just shade it in, and I'm just going to scribble it because to save time. And so now I have that one half of my triangle is shaded red. Okay, so that is half of one half. The other one you need to know, and Tanner said like half of a pizza, because he says that probably because in our house, we'll get like a large pizza, and mine and Tanner's is one half, and it just has cheese, and the other half is Josh's, and he'll get like pepperonis and a meat, banana peppers, things like that. So we get half of the pizza, he gets the other half of the pizza. And that is exactly right. A good example. Thank you, Tanner. So now I'm going to go on to the quarters, which is 1/4. I wanted to make sure they didn't have another one. So think about when you did, we talked about money. We said that 4 quarters equals $1. So this is why they have quarters. And I mentioned this to a few of y'all. It takes 4 quarters to equal one whole dollar. Because remember, the quarters would be the part, the dollar bill would be the whole. So when you're looking at it as a fraction, a quarter or a fourth is when something is divided into 4 equal parts. That's partitioned. This shape is partitioned into 4 equal parts. Okay, so you can see those 4 parts here: 1, 2, 3, and 4. Each part is called a quarter. So it's a quarter, it's 1/4. The part that you need to know is that it's 1/4 of the shape. Do you see how 1/4 is orange? That's the main thing that you need to know in 2nd grade. You can also say that it's a quarter of it. If you think about running the mile on a track, it takes 4 laps to run that mile. Well, they call the first lap a quarter because it's 1 lap. Okay, if you were to do 2, it would be 2 quarters. So you can use it that way, but the main thing you need to know is that it's divided into 4 equal parts. If you notice, no part is bigger than any other part, and 1/4 of it is shaded. Okay, so if I go back to this, I divided my circle, I partitioned it already into 4 equal parts. No, it's not perfect, but because I'm doing it on the computer. So if I were to use, oh, it already is, sorry. Use this, I can shade in any part. It does not matter which part I shade in. But once I have it shaded in, then I will have one part out of, remember, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 total parts. So this is 1/4. When you talk about fractions, you say thirds, fourths, fifths, sixths. You add that TH, except for thirds and halves. Halves is the only one that's really, really different. So keep that in mind as well. That pretty much talks about everything that you will need to know for your worksheets this week. Remember, partition is when you divide the shape into parts, and then you tie that into fractions because you can divide the shape into equal parts, and you can shade certain ones. So this one is 1/2, and it can be spelled just like this. And then this one up here is fourths. I'll try and squeeze this in. That's a 4th. Okay, so that's all you need to know for this week with our math unit. Okay, and